Infill is great. With infill development, we don't have to add streets, we don't have to add water lines, sewer lines, storm sewer lines, this happened to be an infill parcel where the building was actually torn down.
Another multiple housing development on the horizon for Hays. I'm Becky Kiser with Hays Post and Eagle Radio. I'll talk with Hays Vice Mayor Sandy Jacobs and City Manager Toby Dougherty about it on this episode of the Post Podcast. Toby, yesterday we had our financial report statement from our financial director, Kim Rupp, and our information about our sales taxes, which we depend on for our general fund pretty much. We're looking pretty good.
Sales taxes have been holding steady all year. They've been growing. I believe part of that is just we have a bustling economy here, and our economy has really shown no signs of slowing down. And part of it's inflation. As you pay more for a product or a service, you're going to pay more sales tax, and so therefore that results in higher sales tax receipts to us. But that's good because everything we're doing costs more money too. So hopefully we stay ahead of the curve.
And I know when you were working on the budget and Deputy Director Colin Belzer was presenting information to the commissioners, Sandy, he talked about Hays being perennially a good draw. I've forgotten the term now. Pull for people coming in to shop in the city.
It absolutely is. And we're one of the few areas that's actually that pull number's growing. And I think Mayor said it best last night when he was talking about people loving to come to this community. We used to have one or two destinations. We've got a lot of destinations within this community that bring a lot of different kind of people. So I think it's going to keep going. And I was saying to Toby this morning, I think we have a big problem. And he kind of looked at me. We have so much going on. We have so much economic activity going on, social activity going on. It's just a great community, great place to be.
It is. It's wonderful. And we welcome everybody to town this week. And let's talk about some of the motions that were made by the City Commission. Toby, this is exciting. Not only do we have a new fire station under construction on the northwest part of town. Let's see, that's 45th and Post?
41st and Post.
41st and Post on the northwest side of town. And the connectivity to that building is something that they need, but it's also going to affect the actual data servers, kind of the farm, if you will, for the entire city. IT Director Chad Reuter is just beside himself with excitement about this.
Exactly. We have tried to connect all of our city buildings with fiber. And right now I think we have once this project's complete, we'll have solid waste to be the only outlier. And we have a concept to work with the county for their landfill to get those connected to fiber in the future. But when we envisioned the new fire station, in addition to fiber connectivity, we thought about the concept of building a new server room in the station and then allowing IT to transfer their servers to the new facility. The servers are in City Hall, and City Hall's in a floodplain, and it is right in the middle of a floodplain. And Chad Reuter, the IT director, and I have been there in the middle of the night when the floodwaters are coming through City Hall, picking computers off the floor. And it's just not a good setting. The room it's in wasn't designed as a server room. There was a time they had a pipe in the ceiling break, and so we had to put some shields in for that. So having a dedicated room that's not in a floodplain, that's built to withstand pretty much every element possible is going to be good for us, and it'll help keep our data protected.
And you mentioned that this is kind of a project being done in connection with the county, something new on their side as well.
Right. We exercised some cost savings with the county because the county's building a new public works facility on North 183, and they would like fiber connectivity to that building. So we went out for a bid that would have a joint line running to a certain point, and then at one point the line will split over to our facility and then the county facility, but we can share the cost in that initial probably third of it. So it keeps the cost down for both entities.
Becky, I'd like to interject it for a minute here because that's really more important from a standpoint of who we are as a community than it is on the cost savings. I remember when I became a commissioner almost 6 years ago, one of the goals that I and others had was really getting a better working relationship, not from under the commission levels, but on county and city, but at the commission levels. And I think you've seen in the last 6 months, 6, 8, 10 months, there's a lot of that going on. And the way our people work together, everybody should be proud of them, because we work as one entity on these situations, and not only does it save money, gives us opportunity to look at other ways
and grow together.
Absolutely,
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, speaking of growth, Toby, there was also approval of a final plat for what is termed the KCWI edition, just off 27th and now I've lost my location. 22nd and Canterbury, where in the nursing home used to be, and there is an area that is going to most likely be worked up towards multifamily housing. And this is kind of interesting because it's infill, and the city likes infill.
Infill is great. With infill development, we don't have to add streets, we don't have to add water lines, sewer lines, storm sewer lines, this happened to be an infill parcel where the building was actually torn down. This was the side of the old St. John's nursing home. It was torn down when Via Christi was built. So it's immediately north of Via Christi, be the vacant lot between Henry and Canterbury, north of Via Christi. And so the person that owned the property replatted it. There is an existing row of, I'm going to call them studio units, right along Canterbury, that were kind of independent living units when St. John's was going. Mm-hmm. Those are being renovated for use as multifamily housing. And then the developer, the commission approved last night, there'll be 6 lots on the property. There'll be 4 lots facing Henry that will either be duplexes or fourplexes. And then there's 2 lots in the middle that will be multifamily apartment type complexes. And so it's a great example of infill development. And just taking it with duplexes. If you have 2 10 units and 4 duplexes, that's 28 units, and we didn't add any streets, water, sewer. So that's very good.
We see that when we travel, and numbers of years ago, as a city commission, we were doing retreat, and we were in Manhattan, and we made the opportunity to look around, and there was a lot of that going down. This weekend, I happened to be in Kansas City and went to the home shows. The biggest changes that I see are infill in the city. They're going in and tearing down these little old houses and building beautiful houses. People are starting to understand where our costs are involved. Our cost comes when we have to put all new infrastructure in.
You had a comment that I think raised a couple of eyebrows last night, Toby, when you said having high land prices, which we do somewhat, and Hayes is kind of known for that, that is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's not all bad. It's bad because it can restrict development that would not naturally happen. And we have heard that anecdotally, and then through our economic development group, Grow Hayes, about entity X, entity Y that's ready to be here. It's on their corporate radar. They've got the money in place. They just can't make the deal work because of the land prices. So in that regard, it's a little frustrating, but. It also acts as a catalyst for infill development. And the way I like to describe it, sort of like a balloon. If your balloon doesn't have a lot of surface tension pressure, it'll just keep expanding. Okay, and so when land prices are really cheap, there's going to be this desire to just keep expanding outward because there's no restriction to stop that. When you get a little restriction, a little surface tension going out, that creates more pressure inside. And that's what we're seeing is the pressure on the outside because the land prices is creating more people's opportunity on the inside because the numbers work better by tearing down a building. And last night I talked about the Scooter's Coffee House, talked about there's a gun shop just north of Scooter's Coffee House that was an old Chinese restaurant. The infill development that went on. You don't have to go back very far. I think 15 years ago, before the Commerce Bank was built at 22nd and Vine, before the Ellis County facility was built, before anything on the west side on the south side of 22nd Street was built, the Munch Fitnesses and the No Clinic and all of that, that was either vacant lots or a closed down lumber yard.
Yes, I remember.
And now it's a thriving corridor. And again, we didn't add one street, one water line, one sewer line. So infill is just a great thing to happen and keeps the community viable.
Let's talk about something that was voted on in the consent agenda. This is almost a housekeeping item, Toby, regarding the shopping, regarding the Hayes Mall and the CID there. They asked for an extension but we want to explain to people what that is. It does not actually change any of the agreements in terms of the CID itself. What is this 18-month extension for?
So the mall has a CID in place, and it allows them to submit expenditures for reimbursement by the Community Improvement District proceeds. And then that's an extra 1 cent sales tax at the mall. There was a deadline that they had put in the application on those expenditures. And they did most of it for the Ollies when Ollies came in, but they still have some money they could be reimbursed for under the CID, but the deadline expired. So they asked for that to be extended. They would like to spend it in a couple other parts of the mall to help bring some new business to the mall.
Sandy, I want to give you the last word. You had some great things to say, and you do this all the time, talk about how great the employees are for Hayes and how important it is to keep them happy, so to speak, and what a great job they do for us. You had a personal interaction with some in, I think you said it was your alleyway.
In the alleyway.
They were telling you they were going to be there every day, regularly, to check on this situation. You're like, yeah, right. And yes, they are.
They were amazing. They had, my husband actually heard the truck. Whenever we hear a truck in the alley, we get a little nervous. So I go out looking and truck down. There had been a little sewer backup down on the corner. Well, the city noted that immediately. We have people that come out and take care of our sewers, build new sewers, so forth, companies we use. And the guys were absolutely wonderful. There were two of them. They had no idea I was a commissioner, but they talked about their commitment to that not going any further than it does. They explained to me why it's backing up, what's happening, and committed to me that they're coming by every couple of days to look at it until it gets repaired. And by darn if I'm not seeing that truck down every couple of days looking. Our people care about this community, not just as a job, but as a community.
And Toby, that was an opportunity for one of the commissioners to talk about. That's why we have our mill levy set where it is, so that we do have the availability to stay ahead of things like that.
This commission and commissions in the past that I've worked for have been very clear that if we own assets, we take care of those assets. We do preventative maintenance. We replace it when necessary. Because, as you know, whether it's a car or a house, it's always going to cost you more if you don't proactively take care of it. And we luckily live in a community that has good sales tax revenues and good property values that allow us to do